Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Breast Cancer Now's Facebook Live session this evening. I can't believe it's the 31st of October. We've got all the way through Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and this is our last Facebook Live for the month of October. There will be plenty more coming in the coming months, but this evening we're featuring on secondary breast cancer, and specifically our services and other services that support those people that have got a diagnosis of secondary breast cancer. So I'm really delighted to be, I'm going to be shortly introducing my guest, Paula, who is living with secondary breast cancer. She's got a diagnosis of secondary breast cancer. And then I'm going to also be joined by one of my lovely colleagues, Aimee, who's a services coordinator for secondary breast cancer with us here at Breast Cancer Now. A few little housekeeping bits and pieces as usual before we start. So, you're welcome to post questions and to post comments. Remember, it's a public forum, so if there's anything sensitive that you're wanting to ask us about, it might be easier for you to be able to contact us privately. You can use our Ask Our Nurses service. You can give us a call on the helpline. You can contact us through social media and through private messages, that sort of thing as well. And then we've also got a survey that we usually ask you to fill in. If you can think of anything and any topics that you'd like us to cover in these sessions, that's really helpful, and we'd appreciate you filling that in as well. I've mentioned our helpline already, so just to repeat the number and make sure you're aware of that, I should say 0808 800 6000, and we're open 9 till 4 on a Monday to Friday and 9 till 1 on a Saturday as well. So secondary breast cancer, just to remind everybody that's watching already or watching on catch up, is breast cancer that's spread from the breast or the lymph nodes under the armpit to another part of the body. And by virtue of the fact that it's moved to another part of the body, then we know it can't be cured. We're getting better at treating it, but we know it can't be cured. So treatment is aimed at making sure that people live and live well and live as long as possible. So just so that we know what we're talking about tonight, and that's really important when we're thinking about the services that people can benefit from, and they need as whilst they're living with this diagnosis. So without further ado, I'd really like to introduce Paula. Good evening, Paula. Thank you so much for joining us this evening on this Facebook Live. Can I just ask you to tell whoever's watching a little bit about yourself? I know that you had a diagnosis of primary breast cancer, and that might be a good place to start, but obviously we're going to talk about secondary breast cancer, so it'd be really interesting to know what happened and how your diagnosis of secondary breast cancer came about.
Yeah, certainly. So it was in April 2022, so 2.5 years ago. I found a dimple in my left breast. There wasn't any signs of a lump or any other symptoms, to be quite honest. It was just a small dimple when I lifted up my arm, that it just suddenly went in. So GP got referred straight away, and within 2 weeks went up to the Churchill in Oxfordshire, had my mammogram. That showed up multiple small lumps in my left breast,
Right,
and in my armpit. I opted for a mastectomy. It was something that I felt really strongly about. They did offer me a lumpectomy, but I decided to go for a lumpectomy.
Okay.
Mastectomy, sorry.
That's okay.
And had that done within month and a half later. So the turnover was really quick. Couldn't fault the turnover. And then a month later, I went and had a CT scan before I started chemotherapy, and that was in the July 22. And sadly, the next day I found out my CT scan showed that it had spread to my lungs. Small lesions, so it's not like large quantities or anything like that. And I've been on hormone treatment since, because it is estrogen led.
Okay, all right.
That's a little bit.
That's a very sort of a nice synopsis of to be able to understand what's gone on for you. So, sort of knowing and understanding your diagnosis and the impact of your diagnosis. Where did you start from that moment on then to start and have a look for information and support that might be useful to you? Because obviously everybody is different, and some people will go out and look for things and some people won't. So just tell us a bit about what you felt you needed at that point.
To cry. I cried and cried and cried. I didn't want to speak to anybody. I went radio silence, to be fair, for the first month. Didn't want to talk to family or friends because it was like I needed to digest it.
Yeah.
Before I could communicate what was going on, I needed to understand it. So I tried not to go online. I tried not to look for too much information at first because I needed to find my own space in my own head before I could refill it with more information.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's only so much you can take. The nurses were brilliant. They gave me lots of booklets. I went to Maggie's Centre, and that obviously gives you a lot of support. And I got some leaflets there. I got the breast cancer now leaflets and other lots of information. And then after the information that I'd been given settled down, I then started to look for services that was out there and support and what I needed.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter whether you've got hundreds of people, thousands of people going through secondary breast cancer. Your story is individual and your needs are not going to be the same to the next person. My side effects are going to be completely different to the next person, even if we're on the same treatment.
Yeah.
So it's brilliant to talk to people, but what you're going through is still individual. So it's finding that suits you and not the overall people.
Yeah, and we hear on the helpline from so many people that say just that and have that experience. Obviously, it is individual, as you say, and that whole go to ground, just radio silence. I need to get my head or start to get my head around this. Not that that's complete in a month by any stretch of the imagination, but start to do that before I can start and talk to others and the reality of that. Once you start to talk to others and then start and find out a little bit of information, but then other people are completely different and go straight in and finding information. We're all incredibly different about what information we want and need. And so you mentioned side effects. So can I just ask you mentioned that you're on hormone treatment because you're estrogen receptor positive. Is it okay to ask you to tell us a bit about the treatment that you're having and maybe any of the side effects that you're having and how you're monitored?
Yeah, certainly. So I am on quarterly Prosap injections, and this is to stop my ovaries from working. I'm on letrozole, which is obviously to stop the hormones, and I'm on, I always pronounce it wrong, so do apologise, ribociclib.
Perfect.
I call it Ribco because I find it easier. People don't know what you're talking about when you say Ribco, but that's just me. So I'm on those. I get a lot of side effects. Not the whole list. You do get a long list of side effects. The worst one is the joint pain, especially now in my thumbs, my toes, my hips, my ankles, which if I sit down for long periods of time, even just 10 minutes, the minute I get up, I can be on the floor some days, or I have to relearn to walk. I have to get that movement back. And that can take a bit of time. Once I've got the movement back, I'm fine. So the joint pain is not nice. The hair loss is slight. I'm not fully losing my hair because it's not a chemo drug, I believe. So I haven't fully lost my hair, but this used to be a lot thicker. And I've got mood swings, hot flushes, all the menopause because I've been thrown into the menopause. I was 50 a couple of weeks ago, so I'm on the borders of obviously menopause anyway. So so the mood swings and hot flushes have been hard to cope with. But yeah, so there's a few others, but they're not significant. It's the not as significant, should I say, but it's the joint pain that's the most painful.
Okay. You mentioned sort of those side effects and being sort of different, and also just coming across the natural menopause as well. The letrozole that you have reduces your estrogen, so actually does make you, that and the Prostat does make you sort of postmenopausal artificially, and therefore we know an awful lot of people do experience their hair thinning, which actually an awful lot of women do in the natural menopause, but you've got a double whammy going on there as well. So we can come back if we've got time to sort of maybe to think about what support you've got around managing those menopausal symptoms, just where you go and look. I don't mean specifically, but how are you being followed up? I think you mentioned that you obviously had regular scans in the first instance, but they've sort of spread out a little bit. Is that right?
They have indeed. The first few months I was having bloods every few weeks, once a month. and that was to get my neutrophils to a level. And the neutrophils, as I understand it, and I'm sure you can explain it better than me, Catherine, but it's where obviously your immunity goes low on the hormone treatment that I'm on, and what they want to do is build it back up, because obviously if it goes below 1, you're under the risk of infections,
Yeah.
illnesses, more prone to catch. So the immunity is lowered. So I had that at the very early stages, along with ECGs, to make sure my heart was coping with the drug combination. Now I have my bloods quarterly, because I've managed to sustain my neutrophils.
Stable out, yeah.
Stable out. I always go for a nice walk before the day of my bloods, and I have 2 squares of dark chocolate. That works for me. Not saying it's a proven technique, but it always works for me. And I think it's because the walk helps the heart pump the blood, if I'm understanding what I think is right, and that helps with my blood. So for 2 years, I haven't had under 1 for my neutrophils, which is brilliant.
Okay.
And then I have quarterly ProSap injections into my stomach, and I have the ribociclib, obviously gets delivered to me, which is as soon as I run out, which is normally on a 3-month month process.
Okay, and it'd be the ribociclib that's actually doing the bit to your white blood cells that makes them down. I've got no idea about the science of the walk and the chocolate, but if it's working for you, Paula, then I think that's absolutely fine for us to say. But you've gone to, your scans were 3 monthly and now gone to 6 monthly. How did that feel to sort of have that sort of, well, 50% more time to sort of, 100% more time, my maths is wrong, to wait for that? How did you have a good conversation with your oncologist about that sort of spreading that out, and how comfortable did it feel to you?
The first one, because obviously I was having the first one after my diagnosis, so I had a 3-month scan to see how it was going, to see whether the drug combination was working. This showed a good reaction to the combination. I'd had a reduction in size and what they call stable, I believe the term is NEAD, no evidence of active disease.
Yeah.
So basically it's sleeping, as I like to call it. It's sleeping, it's not doing anything. So my oncologist said, they suggested go into 6 monthly. The first one, waiting for that 6 month, was really tough, because I always felt surely finding out sooner is better. So you may be able to change treatment, or at least I know what's going on. But she reassured me that it would be okay. And if I got any other worrying symptoms, cool, they are fully accessible. And then I go to 6 monthly, and I've been on 6 monthly scans since.
Okay.
I have MRIs, and they are 6 monthly to a year, depending. So I've just had one 6 months ago, and she said that because my last CT scan last month showed there was no progression, that she's delayed the MRI for another 6 months. It'll be a year.
Right. Okay, so another one of those experiences of being of waiting and waiting again, but it is tough, and an awful lot of people do sort of, discuss that. It's something that comes up quite a bit when people are doing well on their treatment. There is these very long sustained periods of people doing really well on treatment. So that eking out of that monitoring can be quite tough to sort of manage. But you're still working. I know you're doing a lot of sort of very intricate, sort of very dexterous things. So the fact that you talked about your side effects and the fact that it affects your fingers, must have an impact on your day-to-day life and your working. But I know you also holiday an awful lot, so you're doing an awful lot of living as well.
Trying to work. I love arts and crafts, and I'm a firm believer that if I can't get out the house, say for instance I've recently had a UTI, which is quite a common occurrence, having something that I can sit and do to relax my mind while relaxing my body, it's a real key. So obviously I always go head to the arts and crafts, where I don't have to necessarily move a lot if I need to rest. So that's brilliant. Holidays, it's just, you always want to go on holiday, don't you, whether it's this country or another country. So I want to create the memories with the family, and sometimes going on holiday where you haven't got those distractions. has been key for me. It means that you can just go for a nice walk without worrying about what you're coming home to, for example. So that's been really good for me, definitely.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you for all of that. I mean, we're here to talk about services, so we better move on to services. I remember you saying to me you first found breast cancer now. I think you did some raising of some money, but you've obviously had booklets and things. What brought you to breast cancer now? And before we bring Aimee in, to that sort of, that monthly service, that monthly meetup with other people who've got secondary breast cancer, can you just tell us about that time frame and what brought you to us?
Yes, certainly. So it was about 13 years ago that my husband's auntie got secondary breast cancer and sadly passed away over a few good years. Obviously, treatment has expanded in that time. My 13-year-old son at the time, he's 21 now, he decided he wanted to raise money. So we looked at charities and we stumbled across Breast Cancer Now. And he climbed Snowdon and raised £3,000 for Breast Cancer Now when he obviously nearly 10 years ago. So I knew about Breast Cancer Now back then. And then when it came to my diagnosis, because I already had the knowledge of breast cancer now around me, I then decided to go on the website and look further into the charity more and what it could help me with. I'm, if you haven't guessed it, quite a talkative person, and I prefer face-to-face for myself. Not everybody would prefer face-to-face, so I knew that I wanted to talk to people that understood and got where I was coming from, because as much as my family have been amazing, my sister is fantastic. She Googles everything for me, so I don't have the stress of Google.
She filters everything, does she?
She does, exactly. And that's what I've needed for myself. I needed to go to speak to somebody who kind of like was already in my own head. Yeah. I know that sounds really strange, but to speak to somebody who is going through something exactly the same, it's invaluable. So I decided I wanted to do a face-to-face, and I went on to the Breast Cancer Now and saw the services that you offered, and obviously went from there.
Okay, brilliant. Well, I'm going to bring Aimee in now. So as I said, Aimee is one of our service coordinators for our secondary breast cancer services. Aimee, thanks for joining us this evening. It's great to see you. Can you tell us about what we call our Living with secondary breast cancer services are? Because that's what Paula attends on a monthly basis, not every month. People have other things to do and sometimes not feeling so, that they need to go and that type of thing. So I know that it's a drop in and out service, but tell us what's on offer.
So yeah, our core service is our Living with Secondary Breast Cancer groups, and they're facilitated by qualified counsellors, and they're a safe space for people to come together and talk about whatever they want. We use qualified therapists because we want to make sure it's a safe space, but it's not actually a therapy group. It's just a peer support group in a safe pair of hands. And if you're a bit worried about coming along for the first time, the therapist can give you a call and talk through what to expect. We have about 41 groups at the moment, but that number is changing all the time because
it is definitely
has expanded so much recently. So that overnight that number might go up, but at the moment it's 41, I think. And the groups meet on a set date and time in the month. So, for example, the first Thursday of the month from say 11 till 1. And yeah, it's a chance to meet other people who get it, people with a secondary breast cancer diagnosis. But it doesn't mean that that's all people will be talking about. People will bring their whole lives to the groups. And every 3 months or so, we have a speaker session where we invite along someone to deliver on a particular topic. It might be benefits and financial advice, physical activity, complementary therapies, or anything really that the group are interested in. We really try and tailor those sessions to what people are asking for in the groups. So that's a little bit about the practicalities, but really, I think what people would be interested to hear about is what it's actually like coming along to a group. So I'd really like to hear more about Paula, what it was like for you, especially coming for the first time to one of our groups, because I think it must be quite anxiety kind of inducing, stepping over that threshold for the first time.
Yeah, we definitely meet people when they come to the groups or other services where they've been anxious. So what was it like for you, Paula?
Well, the first one that I booked onto, I didn't actually go because I was too scared, and I knew that I had to go. So I booked onto the Oxford one that I do attend to, because there's the Milton Keynes and Oxford, so I'm right bang in the middle of them. But I know Oxford better, so I chose the Oxford one. And I actually sat in the car for 10 minutes. I was too scared to get out of the car because it's that perception that you think that everyone would have lost their hair, or they'll be more poorly than me, or I'm still quite active. I felt like I was cheating the service by going, because am I ill enough to go? So I had all of this going on in my head and felt like maybe I shouldn't be going, and excuse me. So I was very nervous. So like I said, I sat in the car for 10 minutes, umming and ahhing whether to go home, but I plucked up the courage and went, and it was the best thing I did. Absolutely best thing I did. Very quiet the first session. I barely spoke, purely for the fact that it was quite overwhelming. Suddenly realizing that I'm not alone anymore, and there's all these other people that can help, and what I'm feeling and what's going on in my head is actually normal. I know really there is no normal, but for me, I didn't feel normal anymore. And then all of a sudden, you could feel your shoulders I felt my shoulders just drop. Ladies, obviously, I'm not disclosing anything about what we discuss or anything like that in the groups because it is private, but the ladies just made me feel welcome. And I've been going back ever since. Some months I can't make it if I've got an infection or work commitments or anything like that. But generally, I try to go as often as I can. And I love it. Absolutely love it.
Okay. Oh, that's really great to hear. It's great, as you say, Aimee, to hear somebody's personal experience, isn't it, about that? And you have said that obviously you don't want to sort of disclose particular things, but can you give people an idea of the topics that come up? I mean, there are definitely those things that you talk about with regards to your diagnosis, and that can be, quite intense at times, but I know that there's an awful lot of laughter and an awful lot of other things that are not connected to your secondary breast cancer that are also discussed. So can you give us a little bit of a flavour as to, what does get talked about there?
Yeah, I mean, I generally talk about the kids a lot because, my children are, my youngest was 15 sitting her GCSE when I was having my reconstruction surgery for my mastectomy. So it was talking to them about my older children, because younger children are obviously, they don't fully understand it. But older children are in a stage where they can fully comprehend what's going on to some extent. So talking a lot about children and how to talk to children, whether they be adults or younger ones. That was what I was talking about a lot to begin with. Work. Is everyone still working? Am I still okay to be exercising and, going to the cinema, or even just going to the pub to have a drink? It's knowing that I'm, that's fine, and it's very lighthearted. A lot of the chat is very lighthearted. It is definitely not all about secondary breast cancer, primary breast cancer. It can be anything you want to talk about, and that's pretty much how I liked it. Okay. If one day I don't want to talk about what's going on behind with my diagnosis, I can just have a cup of coffee and chat to friends.
Yeah, and that does demonstrate that safe space that you mentioned, Aimee, doesn't it? But we don't just recreate that sort of locally and face to face. We can't be everywhere at the moment. Although you said the team and also the localities are increasing, and I can't keep up with them. I have to keep looking them up. But we've got some online services as well, haven't we? For people that actually might prefer online services or want a bit of both, or actually, that's the only thing that they can access if they're happy with using the internet. So can you tell us a bit about the online services that we've got as well?
Yeah, and we developed those sort of in the pandemic, but they've actually become a core part of what we offer. So we've been very much carrying on with them. We've got 6 online groups a month, and they across the month. So with the face-to-face groups, you've got 1 a month. So if you miss that, then it's quite a while till your next meeting, potentially 8 weeks till your next meeting if you miss one. The beauty of our online groups is that we've got 1 or 2 a week. across the month, and you can come to as many or as few as you like. You can come to the online and the face-to-face. You don't have to choose one over the other. And some people, depending on what's happening in their lives, might go to both or choose to go to online because they've got appointments and things like that. We've also got a dedicated online group in the Highlands and also one for younger people as well. So yeah, that's the online groups. And we also have online speakers live as well. We've got 2 topics a month now coming up in the new year. We do those on Zoom, and we have Zoom meetings, and they're kind of interactive, a bit like this, where you can see everybody's faces on the screen. They work well for things where people want to share their experiences or maybe do an activity together. We had a lovely one on creative writing, and people were actually writing things in the room and sharing them with each other. It was really moving and beautiful. And also, when it's kind of more of an information sharing, a large session where we want to share a lot of information, we would do that on a webinar. So there would only be the speaker on the screen, everybody else would be hidden, and we can record that and share it with lots of people. And we had a really successful webinar in January where we had over 70 people with secondary breast cancer on the call, and it was about travel insurance, which Paula was talking about. And it was just great that we were able to reach that many people and have their questions answered live. And I think we've shared that with them, probably about 50 people since who've asked for the recording.
Yeah.
We'll be doing another webinar in the new year on travel insurance, so look out for that.
Yeah, that was a really successful one, wasn't it? It was a question that comes up loads and loads on the helpline in our Ask Our Nurses service as well. So it was brilliant to have a great expert, and we have some, really great speakers. So people wanting to access can do that. And you mentioned the group about for younger women and young people. Can you just tell us a little bit about what we've got on offer for them? Because we've got some both, face to face, not local in local areas, but we do some sort of UK wide events, don't we? Just tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we've got a monthly group online, so that I think that's on the 3rd Tuesday of the month from 1 to 2:30. So yeah, that's every month. And then these are for people who are aged between 20 and 45.
Yeah.
And then we have a 3-week online event, and I think that's repeated about 3 times a year. And we also have a 2-day residential face-to-face, and we have 2 of those a year. And the next one's coming up in Bristol on the 9th and 10th of May, 2025. And they're incredibly powerful, moving events. So, if people are interested in coming along, just get in touch.
Yeah, they are that great space to bring people together, just like Paula experiences on a monthly basis as well, the younger women. And we sort of feature in that age group simply because we know there are specific things that apply, to those women in that age group. We do quite a bit of talking about, children and but other things about, menopausal symptoms, managing that, and sex and intimacy, and lots of things that are sort of really those people need to be together as younger women. So it is really moving and powerful, but they also have a really good time as well. So
the evening, just seeing everybody get together over the meal, and just making connections, and those connections can go on for many years, and friendships are forged. So yeah.
And before we move on, obviously I said that was UK wide, so that makes it maybe for some people thinking, well, that's not quite as easy for me to access. That involves time, it involves the ability to be able to travel, drive, or get on public transport, but it can also involve finance. Now we've got a brilliant access fund. Can you tell us about the access fund, which we're really grateful to ASDA for providing for us, and it's making a difference so that people can get to our services? Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, it's making a huge difference. We're so lucky that ASDA provide this money. It's through their Tickle Pink campaign. And we know that our services are free and there's no cost, but there could be a cost incurred, as you've said. So if cost is going to be a barrier for you coming along to a monthly group or one of our residentials, we can look at covering the cost of, say, a taxi or train fare. And I think we've covered childcare for somebody. And don't feel shy about coming forward. We won't ask lots of intrusive questions. We'll take you on your word. If finance is a barrier, that's that, and we'll look into it. But yeah, it's great to have that money and know that we can provide more support for people. Somebody was saying to me recently they didn't want to use the charity's money, like fundraising money, and I was able to reassure them, you're not, it's from ASDA and it's specifically for this use, please use it. And they were like, oh, okay then.
Yeah, and that's important to know, isn't it? But it's great to have that there so that people that wouldn't be able to otherwise attend would be, can do. And so where can people find out more? I know that they can ring our helpline, and they do, and we put them through to services, and also that we will reply to people who have got a diagnosis of secondary breast cancer. If they're asking us questions, we'll let them know about the services and send them links when we ask our nurses written replies to them. But have you got some specific information that we can share so that people can contact us and find out more about the services you've explained?
Yeah, we've got a really friendly services support team here in Sheffield that answers queries across the country. So you can call us on 0345 077 1893. And you can also email the team on services@breastcancernow.org, and go to our website, breastcancernow.org, and click on support for you. And then you can see all the different kinds of services that we offer and register your interest in anything that's of particular interest to you.
Brilliant. Okay. And I think we're going to share either as we've been talking along or afterwards. I can't see what's popping up in the chat, but we're going to share some of those links as well, so that people should be able to find us. But yeah, 0808 800 6000. If you did want to speak to one of the nurses on the helpline, you can speak to us about anything, but you can also ask us alongside that, or just ask us about the services as well. I'm going to come back in a minute sort of to other bits and pieces as well, but I just want to go back to Paula and just say, from your experience, you've obviously told us how it was for you, but what would you say to anybody else about attending one of the services, be that the monthly service, or maybe, to some of the younger women than yourself who might want to access our services? You'd encourage them to try it out, I'm guessing, but, I don't want to put words into your mouth.
Yeah, definitely give it a try, because it's not just about secondary breast cancer. It is about friendship. It's about getting together with people that get you. So highly recommend it. I actually, it's a godsend for me, because it means that I am not overloading my family and friends as much as I was, because I've got that space, the safe space there. Some months, obviously, if it's only last month, I think it was just me that was there, so I just sat there, and I could be more personal with the counsellor. So sometimes if it is just the one-to-one, it's actually quite nice as well. So it's not always a massive group. It's not women sitting in a circle talking about things that are going to happen or things like that. It's about friendships and chit chat, coffee and biscuits.
Okay, but I know sort of for an awful lot of people, they also find that going through secondary breast cancer and living with the disease, there are lots of practical, physical side effects to go through. But I've heard time and time again so many people talk about the fact that the majority of managing this is for them psychological. That's not to say it's the same for everybody. We've said about individual experiences, but people's mental health can go up and down depending what's happening to them and their disease. Is that something you've found as well, that it supports, or it is part of the support that you can get from out there to support the times when you do feel up and down, and support that, the changes in your mental health if you do experience those?
Oh, I think, yeah, I do. It's like a yo-yo. Even when I get good scans, it's like the scanxiety, the build up from having the scans to getting the results. Sorry, I sometimes get a little bit confused with my words. So it's all of that. It's like a yo-yo. You're up and down, and it can be really tiring, not just physically but mentally. And obviously, gaining access to people to listen and bounce things off has been brilliant for my mental health. And I do notice, and my husband does, he notices a difference when I haven't been to the group. He says when I come back from the group, I'm chirpier. I'm a really kind of like happy-go-lucky person anyway. But if I'm feeling overwhelmed by something and I don't want to talk about it to my family members because I don't want to stress them out, and it could be something so trivial that they don't really need to know about, but to me it's like, wow, this is something massive that I cannot cope with. I need to go to the group, and I always come back feeling like I can breathe again. And to me, that is invaluable. So yeah.
And that whole shoulders down again, you feel your shoulders rise. You explained that so well earlier on, but that just getting that support and being heard and being listened to and understood, and that whole sort of weight going down again. That's not to say that it's removed or every bit. It can't do that. We understand that, but it can help an awful lot of people sort of in that situation. I do also want to just come back then to Aimee and just say, how else do we involve people in our services? If you want to talk about that, I know, and maybe we can just touch on this with Paula as well, because we've got our voices. We are definitely doing, we've got a great member of our team now that is doing an awful lot of work to look at new projects and look at what we need to do with those services to improve them and expand them. Tell us a little bit more about the work that the team are doing with Lottie and what she's doing on her projects.
Catherine, I've got a big smile on my face because hearing Paula describe the services, she could talk all day about it. It's just wonderful. Thank you, Paula. But yeah, our team's been expanding. It's brilliant that we've got so many more people in post now. And Lottie Adams joined us about 6 months ago, and her role is a new projects and business growth manager. And she's been running focus groups, listening to people with secondary breast cancer, and getting their experiences about what it's been like to use our services, seeing what the gaps might be. And she's also set up a secondary services advisory group, and their role will be helping us to develop new services. And she's actually got a suggestions box that I think Bernard will be sharing the link to. So if anybody has got ideas about new things that they'd like us to be delivering, you can fill in that form and send it to Lottie and give her a bit more work to do. Not that she's got not enough work to do. She's been really working hard in the last 6 months. It's been.
I think we'd really welcome ideas, because this is not about what we think people should need. It really is key and important that we involve people with breast cancer in everything that we do for the organisation, but we're specifically talking about secondary breast cancer, and we need to get it right, and we want to hear from people and hear their ideas as to whether things need to change, times, dates, size of groups, and loads of things there must be. So any suggestions, I know that's going to be posted, as you said. Somebody's actually asked a question. Do we have a buddy scheme? And no, that's not. We don't have a buddy scheme. We don't have a one-to-one scheme. But Teresa, thank you very much for asking the question. So although I can't tell you we've got one, that's a great idea to be able to put in the suggestions box. So please, will you put it in there? We'll feed that back if you don't as well, but it'd be great if you'd put it in there. Sorry, I interrupted, Aimee.
No, not at all. It was just I wanted to say that Lottie advertised those opportunities through our Breast Cancer Now voices. So that's a way that you can get involved in the work that we do by becoming a breast cancer voice. And it's another opportunity to hear from Paula, because I know that you're a voice, Paula. It'd be great to know how you found out about becoming a voice and your experiences so far.
Yeah, I found out about it on the website. I'm regularly going on the website just for updates, but also Facebook page, the Breast Cancer Now Facebook page, advertise it. And I believe there is actually a separate one for Breast Cancer Now Voices. So obviously, if anyone is interested in joining the Voices, they can go on there for more information. And I've attended one session for the Breast Cancer Voices, and it was really, really great, because they're trying to collate information by people that are living with the illness. So how better to do that by including us? Because we know what's going on, more so, I think, than the medical team sometimes. So I did join that, and it was really beneficial, and it was just gaining information about terminology and things like that. How can it be simplified for people with secondary breast cancer? Because when you get those letters, it's all ER, HE, be this, be that, and it's just like... So that's where the brochure, I've got the Breast Cancer Now brochure here, comes into play for me as well, because I use it as a bit more like my Bible. But the voices, obviously, is something that I highly recommend anybody who wants to have a voice to get involved with, because our voices do count.
Okay, that's brilliant. I think we could probably post a link to Voices as well in the chat, whether we do that, we've done that just now, or whether we can do that afterwards as well, along with the links that might be relevant to anything else that you've mentioned as well. So you just mentioned one of those, that which was, from a point of view of services, and another one of our services, although maybe people don't directly think it and link it to it, is our health information, our information about breast cancer, widely, but we have a range of information both on the website and in print. And you've got your secondary breast cancer information pack there. I think we can post a link to how people might order that. But I know that you found that really helpful. It comes in 3 sections. Do you want to tell people a little bit about it and which bits you found helpful?
So there's quite a few, actually. I was surprised at how thick it is. This one is the main Bible. The reason being is that I call it my Bible because it has all the abbreviations on it. Obviously, I'm not going to read them all, but it's like a dictionary, and it's all the terminology that maybe be in your letter. It helps you understand. So it's literally, as soon as I get a letter come through, it will be, I will use this and find it. It's all alphabetical, which makes it a lot easier. So that's the main hub of the book. Then you've actually got a personal organizer. And this is where you can record, for those that might be having more memory problems or things like that. You can log your medication, you can put time and schedule and things like that in there. So that's really good.
Yeah, I encourage people to use that in order to sort of write things down that they want to say at their consultation, and make sure that they prioritise the bits that they want to talk about at their consultation. So lots of uses for that.
And it has a symptom guide in there as well. So you can write down symptoms as and when you get them. So that if you're worrying about a symptom, just jot it down. And obviously it's just a little reminder for yourself. So this one is the one that I struggle with. It's planning ahead, because this is all about palliative care, end of life care. Although palliative care is not just about end of life care. It's about yoga, Pilates. It's about looking after yourself. It's not just about end of life care, which is a misconception on a lot of people's minds. This one is the hard one, because it is about will writing, funeral planning and things like that. But it is something that I keep picking up, reading a little snippet, then putting it back down again. When I feel that something's relevant to, maybe, I'm redoing my wills at the moment, I'll read a little bit. I'm not going to sit there and read the whole lot, because it's just too much and it will just lower my mental health. So it's little and often.
Yeah.
And there's this one, which is the support for you, which is really good because it has the face-to-face and the online, and it actually has a QR code that can take you straight to the website if you're struggling to find the services. So that's good for anyone who's got this but not gone on the website.
Okay, so that'll take you to the information that Aimee so talked about so well as well this evening. I just want to remind people there are a couple of questions coming through. If we don't actually answer your question on air, whether it's to do with the topic now or whether it's off topic, then I will definitely be writing you a reply if we don't answer to that in the next few minutes. So good to hear that you have found that really helpful, as well as Voices. We've talked about what we provide. Is it possible that you could tell us a little bit more about other things that you've used? I think you mentioned the Macmillan finance advice, and I know that in the conversation when we set up actually talking about this, I mentioned to you about the Make Seconds Count patient trials advocate service, which you've now had first-hand experience at. So maybe tell us a little bit about that, because it's not just about us. There is other stuff out there, and it's great to signpost people to other things as well as what we offer.
Yeah. Make Seconds Count, I found them first year of my diagnosis, so in 2022. I think it was a Facebook page. There's lots of different support groups on Facebook. And in 2023, me and my family walked 7 miles for Blenheim Palace and raised just over £1,000 for Make Second Count.
Wow.
And I've been following them on social media since, and I have their updates on the emails. So I already knew about Make Second Counts, but after we had that conversation, Catherine, a couple of weeks ago, I did contact them directly about the trials and about what to expect. It was a brilliant conversation. Because it made me realise that there's other things out there. If anybody is interested in trials, make second count a call, and they'll give you an appointment. They'll go through trials that are available, but they'll also tell you the process. They'll run it by you from top to toe. They won't leave anything out. They'll go away, find trials that might suit you personally, and then send you all the information. You're not under any I can't think of the word.
Obligation. Yeah, they're not there to sign you up, are they? Really, it's an information giving session, isn't it? About, do you want to know more about trials as to whether you'd be interested in this or not? Yes, here you are. Or yes, here's the information. And somebody might go, no, I'm not really interested. I know, but they will do that. So that sort of trial finding, and it has to. We just want to remind everybody that trials are not for the end of treatment. It's not when you've run out of options. They can come in far sooner. And a big plug, I think, for our Tuesday Speakers Live session. I think I can't remember the time of it now, and I should know it because I'm going to be there. But one of the staff, Vivian from Mexicans County, is going to be talking about the Patient Trials Advocate Service. We're going to talk about a little bit about being self-advocate as well. So if you want more information about that, then the information that Aimee talked about, then you can find out more about that. And hopefully we've posted that. I'm not going to forget about Millen. I do want to just finally sort of cover off and talk about that as well. But Teresa has also asked, how do you get copies of the publications you're showing? Hopefully there is a link to that publication that is in the chat. Teresa, if you have a look at that and click on the link, you can order that for yourself and it will be delivered directly to your home. So hopefully that answers that question. But yeah, I think you said to me that you did phone Macmillan with regards to some financial advice. Was that right, about what you might be entitled to?
Yeah, it was. I phoned them just after my diagnosis, probably in the January 2023, and it was more about changing my will. It was more into the future. What is there for me if I do get to the stage that I have to give up work, or I get to the stage where I need a carer, or any reasons. And they were really, really good. They didn't rush me on the phone. They made sure that I understood everything. They answered questions, and then they emailed it all to me afterwards. So obviously it's quite overload again. I like to read, as I mentioned, in little bits. And that's what Macmillan allow you to do, because they send the information through to you as well as going through it. And then I've since phoned them for other reasons, to do with the children, talking to my kids and things like that. So I've phoned them on a few occasions, and they have been really good every single time. They'll direct you to the right department.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Just going back to the publication as well, you sort of talked about, just dipping into that planning ahead section. And obviously you've sort of related to that now when you've just talked about Macmillan and about the future, etc. Excuse me. I just wondered, have you connected with anybody in the palliative care services at all in your area? I think that's one of the things that people are really quite frightened about doing, because there is this stigma about palliative care and it's only about end of life. But, you talked about what can be offered, with regards to, palliative care and connecting with, different things. But, it's there to help you live and live well, really. And so, I just wondered whether there were things that you had done, or whether other people may have brought up the benefit for them, obviously not without giving anything away that's personal, but just that probably comes up at the group as well in Oxford that you go to.
Yeah, so I haven't actually been to my local hospice since my diagnosis. I have gone on their website many times, just to familiarise myself with it, so I know what to expect. And I do plan to go down, because I know they do some workshops. As I mentioned, they do some exercise workshops. They do other things that aren't to do with end of life. And I think it's really important. It will be really important for me to familiarise myself with the surroundings, so it feels, dare I say it, when it is at that time, it feels more like a home area for me, my kids, and they can give me help and guidance if I decide I want to pass away at home as well. Yeah. So it's not just about they're not just there for for the end of life. They will be there to support you as well as guide you, and I think that is a way to go if people are struggling and maybe they haven't got a face-to-face group close to them. Every town will have a local one, and they're all different names, aren't they? They're not
So people can be referred by their oncologist, by their nurse, by their GP. And you're right, there is that sort of thinking about and planning ahead and thinking, is this where I might want to be, and being familiar with that place. But actually, that's one side of things, but actually them helping you live and live well. So if people have pain, they are brilliant at helping people. If their pain is not under control and people at the hospital are struggling a little bit and sort of out of ideas of how to do that, they can help people manage their fatigue. They can help people manage breathlessness and sickness. So a lot of the symptoms that do come up, but if you can get on top of that, obviously that means that people's quality of life is better. And they also offer support for families as well, which is also important to people like yourself. You want to know that your loved ones and those close to you are supported as well. We've done 50 minutes, ladies. I think we've covered so much. A couple of things maybe we haven't mentioned. I do want to just ask, so maybe I'm putting you on the spot. I think I did sort of prepare for this, but maybe just a tip for anybody that's out there, people that are out there that have got a diagnosis similar to you of secondary breast cancer.
First off, if you're newly diagnosed, don't be hard on yourself with how you're feeling, because everything you're feeling, you're gonna feel. So let it come out in the way that you need to let it come out. I did, and then stop and think where you need to take this for you, nobody else, for you at the moment, and then start thinking about others later on. If you're worried about a group, don't be worried, because it's the best thing I ever did, and it's helped me live again, rather than sitting at home dwelling and is this normal? I'm not living where I want to be right now. Definitely use the services. If you're not sure to begin with about face-to-face, use an online one. You can always keep your camera off. You don't need to have your microphone on, so you can be private if you prefer to go down that road. And then maybe when you build up your confidence and know what to expect in conversation-wise, I mean, if you're in Oxford, you probably won't get a word in with me, but, don't mind, sorry. But, it's just give it a try. Give it a try, one step at a time.
Oh, and Aimee, I'm going to ask you the same thing. I think I've definitely put you on the spot there, but just from our point of view, and just, what you would say about how it is to work with people and you developing and setting up those services, what would you say to people that are thinking about coming along or wanting to find out more?
I can't better what Paula said, but I would just say, give us a call. We can connect you with the therapist. They can talk you through what to expect. You're not signing up for anything. You're not like obliged to come every month. Sometimes people sign up and they don't come for 6 months, and they just get the emails and they know it's there. It's reassuring to know that group meets, and then they'll decide to come when the time's right for them. We've had someone come back to a group who's been away for a year. She's been busy living her life, and then she decided, I'm going to go back and see the group, and she was welcomed with open arms, and it was like she'd never been away. So I can't really better what Paul has said, but give it a go. Give us a call. We'll talk you through things, and if it's not for you, that's absolutely fine. There's lots on offer. You can pick and choose between lots of different services that we offer. I also just wanted to mention as well that the groups are available for men. So do get in touch if you're a man and you want to know what support's available. The groups are here for you too.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think there could be no better advert, and I'm hoping that there are people from Oxford sort of listening, because they've already made a friend in you, I think, Paula, and I would definitely be encouraged to come along to the group if I knew you were going to be there. So thank you both. Thank you both of you. I know we put quite a lot of links into the chat. We've not had loads of questions, but that's absolutely fine. We've had a really good discussion this evening about our services, what else is out there as well. Our helpline is open, 0808 800 6000 if you want to talk about anything. I know Teresa's just popped a comment in there with regards to how experience has been with palliative care. Maybe you want to give us a call to talk that over, Teresa. We'd be very, very happy to speak to you in the morning if you wanted to give the helpline team a call tomorrow. But I'm going to say a final good night and say thank you to you both. Thank you for Bernard in the background for doing the tech bit and posting all the links, and I hope they're really helpful for people. If there are questions there that I've not been able to see, we've not been able to answer, whether we're on topic or off topic, I'll be answering those tomorrow, so you will definitely get an answer tomorrow. But thank you so much, Paula. Thank you, Aimee, and I'll see you both very soon, and we'll see everybody. I think we've got something coming up with I can't remember that it's yoga or Pilates next week, so have a look anyway. I have a look on our Facebook page. You'll be able to see what's coming up Facebook wise in November. But we'll bid goodbye to October as well as you two, and say goodnight to everybody.
Night.
Bye bye.
Bye.